Hey guys, I just have a lot of information that I want to outlet, and so here we go again. Um, I wanted to make a video to explore, like, I guess our interactions or our ability to connect with people or our inability to connect with people and why we cut people out. I think I've kind of touched on these things in previous recordings, but so, if you were to compare yourself to other personality types and use it as a reference point or a gauge, I think it's pretty obvious that everybody is wired differently. And even though we have opportunities to interact with one another in order to, view our weaknesses and strengths through another person, I think you can agree, like, and again, just to clarify, these are all like just, I know they're labels, but they're used as a reference point in order for your mind to understand what you are currently working with so that you can elaborate on it, right? So, knowing that each personality type is wired a certain way, we are wired a certain way, pretty much means we are not going to function the same way. We are all going to function in a way that is suitable to our operating system. If you want to look at like a toolbox, you have a hammer, you have a wrench, you have a saw, you have a measuring tape. All of them are different. They have different functions, right? You can't expect a measuring tape to nail in a nail, or hammer a nail. You know what I mean? You can't expect a wrench to like screw in a screw. You need a drill for that. So every single thing has its purpose and function, and it has its, various, I guess, uses. You know what I mean? And again, like it boils down to creation experiencing itself and constructing itself and destructing itself through various means and avenues. Humans being one avenue of an infinite amount of things that it can like experience itself through. So knowing that we are all here with our own blueprint, our own mind, how do I say? We are all wired a certain or a specific way that is specific to our personality type, if you want to say. Um, we all have our function. We have our role. We have like the part we need to play in this larger schematic of things. So, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. Some like extroverts, they're made to, like, I think, explore creation on a horizontal level, and that's why they seem like they're so outgoing and everybody likes them. It's because they're exploring life on a horizontal level, whereas I think introverts explore life on a vertical level. So we go for depth, and extroverts are capable of going to a certain depth, and we are also, capable of exploring life on a horizontal level to a certain extent. It may not be our strength, but we are all capable of sharing our various perspectives and experiences with one another in order to encourage growth or expansion, right? And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we also have the opportunity to interact with each other in a way that's destructive, and it just is. It just is, everything aside, it just is. So, don't be so hard on yourself. You're trying to be who you are, and you can't be a hammer if you're a tape measurer. You know what I mean? It's like ridiculous to try to emulate something that you are not. I mean, that's what most of the people in the world are doing anyway, right? They're trying to be something that they're not, instead of just allowing themselves to be who they really are. And that's what makes life so beautiful, the contrast, the harmony, finding the harmony and diversity, respecting someone else's point of view, respecting someone else's way of functioning, respecting how someone else is wired, and just appreciating that contrast and that difference. And then, I think the interactions help us to kind of, like I said, expand ourselves, to see things from a different perspective. Maybe not from your own personal experience, but you can experience life through others, based on their perception and their perspective. And, depending on their level of maturity and development and growth and consciousness, you can kind of get a more accurate gauge on the information that they are distributing and you're processing and digesting. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I guess that's it in a nutshell. I mean, yeah, you like any tool, you can use it to enhance yourself or destroy yourself. So I think comparison on a I don't know, more positive note helps you to see your blind spots, and helps you to see where you could possibly put forth some type of effort into enhancing that particular part of yourself. But in actuality, a tree is a tree, a rock is a rock, and tomato, tomato. You know what I mean? So stop being so hard on yourself and just recognize and respect the differences and allow everyone to be, and acknowledge the beauty and the perfection in all the imperfections, and find harmony and diversity. I think that's just it. You know what I mean? Stop overthinking it. I feel like, I don't know if everyone has a capacity to do this. Maybe some people are more adept at doing it, but for INFJs, I think it's really important for us to get into our heart and just kind of emanate from that space. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much intelligence in what your heart can perceive versus just the intellect. And we have the ability to access both. So, instead of creating all these limitations and expectations and assumptions and categorizing things and being so lost in the concepts and the constructs of the mind, just move out of that, because I think you've already, or for me personally, I've exhausted that particular intelligence, and it's not working for me. It works, to a certain degree in certain circumstances, but overall I notice this creates more chaos and more you know unwarranted or unwanted experiences, more so than if I were to kind of approach life through my heart, and just kind of allow people to be and see them as they are unconditionally, without placing any restrictions or regulations or expectations on them. You know what I mean? You just function from a much clearer and much, I don't know, it's a much more liberating place to function from, versus the mind, which is kind of like a cage, and a never-ending maze that creates conflict and answers and conflict and answers, and it wants to understand. There's so much more that you can understand without the words, without the labels, without categorization. You know what I mean? And that comes from your heart, and you can actually make really, really deep and worthwhile connections if you function from here versus here. Think about it. When you meet a person, the mind automatically goes into assessment mode, right? And then judging this person, whatever, however you want to perceive them, based on previous impressions that may not be applicable to what is. You know what I mean? But if you approach people with your heart, then you just get to experience someone just as they are, without like crucifying them or without categorizing them or without labeling them or judging them, and just kind of like making that heartfelt connection with everything and everyone around you. And I think that's what we're striving towards, whether you are aware of it or not, and I think everyone has a capacity to enter this space, but some are more, advanced on the path and some are still learning, and that's okay. And like I said in previous videos, what helps me to kind of like be more compassionate towards people, like when I notice that somebody is like a baby soul or a young soul or an infant soul and they just don't know any better, how can you get mad? Really, how can you get mad? You can just like acknowledge and foster understanding and patience and tolerance and just allow people to be, and allow yourself to be. Anyhow, I'm going to stop talking. If you learned something, cool. If you didn't learn something, cool. I hope you're having a beautiful night. Blessings to one and all. Amen.